Good day, flight simmers, and welcome back. We're going to do a sightseeing tour of Halifax, Nova Scotia, and we're going to take off from the Halifax International Airport.
Halifax Tower, Robin 438, November Papa Victor 28 at runway 23, ready for departure. Departure to the south.
Okay. We're in a great little plane here, the Icon A5, great sightseeing plane. Let's take a look inside really quick. It's kind of got a dash like a motorcycle. It's a really cool little sightseeing plane. And shift 1 will give you that view with your basic dials, your airspeed, your altitude, your RPMs, and your fuel, etc. Shift 2, we can see our little multifunctional display, and we'll put it on map so we can see where we're going. Shift 3 is some more controls here, like your lights, your nav lights. We'll leave those on, your landing lights. There's your taxi lights, etc. Landing gear, and some little gauges to let you know your altitude, etc. So I'll hit the barometric pressure and make sure that's just come on the keyboard. So shift 4, it gives us our throttle here. And shift 5, you can see your parking brake there. Shift 6, there's a parachute on this thing in case something goes wrong. There's your fuel switch there. It's set to on. Shift 6, nice view out the front window. Okay, so let's get ready to roll. We got our flaps down, take off the parking brakes, and we'll take off. This is July the 14th, 2026. So bring up the landing gear. And we'll bring up the flaps. Through the magic of Microsoft, I can change the weather. So we're going to go custom weather, and we're going to have a nice clear day here. There you go. We'll get rid of the clouds. This will give us a nice day for sightseeing. Good look at our aircraft there. And the airport as we leave it behind. Enfield in the background there. So I've got the nav map also turned on to track our flight paths, so we'll be able to look up the names of some of these lakes. I'm going to do this at nighttime too. I can switch it to a nighttime scene, and you can see Halifax Harbour lit up at night, the bridges, etc. So on our right there is the Highway 102 into Halifax. There's Waverley straight ahead. Anyone from this area would be very familiar with some of these names. Waverley is sort of north out of Halifax along the lake. So once we get over these next two lakes, I'll let you know what their names are.
Halifax Tower, Robin 438, November Papa Victor 28. Continue for south departure.
This thing can land on the water too, which is kind of nice. Okay, so
Robin 438, November Papa Victor 28, leaving my airspace. Frequency change approved.
Okay, let's see what that
Flare
lake
656. Exit runway when able.
Have a look
Halifax
at this.
Tower, Robin 438, November Papa Victor 28. Frequency change.
So this is Shubenacadie Grand Lake. It's over on our right behind us there. We're coming up to Miller Lake. Boulder Lake. Fletcher's Lake. I'll give you an idea. And then we're going to fly over Lake Thomas. And this is Lake William. So this highway on our right, 102, will take us right into Halifax and Dartmouth and into Bedford Basin. So I'm going to see if I can get our altitude down to about 1,000 feet there. Go check this marker out, see if we can bring up the name on this.
Center, Robin 438, November Papa Victor 28 is type icon. 3 miles northeast of Charlie Foxtrot Romeo Tree. 1200. Request flight following.
Robin 438, November Papa Victor 28, center. Squawk Tree 516.
So there's Waverly straight ahead.
Squawk Tree 516. Robin 438, November Papa Victor 28.
So
Robin 438, November Papa Victor 28.
on our left is
contact 3 miles
Highway
northeast of
118,
Charlie Foxtrot Romeo Tree, 1200.
which leads
Altimeter
into
29902.
Dartmouth. And then on our right
Roger.
is
Robin
Highway
438,
102,
November Papa
which
Victor
leads
28.
into the Halifax area. So this is Bedford Basin right here we're coming up to. There's Lake William again. You're wondering what that is. So we're going to fly into Bedford Basin here. And here's your two bridges. The Amory McKay Bridge and the Angus L. McDonald. We'll fly underneath them and see what that looks like. They're really nice bridges. And when you're driving across, you get quite a view of Bedford Basin and Halifax Harbour. So you got to be careful you don't rear end somebody by gawking around too much, taking your eyes off the traffic ahead on the bridge. So there's Bedford there, which is a community just to the, I would say, northwest area along Bedford Basin, from Halifax proper. Getting my altitude down here so you can see a little bit better how everything's rendered in Microsoft Flight Sim. let's turn rocks on. I think that was put it on high for our sightseeing. Fly and save. Now here's our plane, and right now we're flying over, I'll let that come into focus, Bedford Industrial Park. That's what you see below. And over here we've got Walmart, Bedford Commons Plaza, Canadian Tire, etc. So, shopping area. Okay, let's continue on. It's like some pickleball or tennis courts down there. We just flew over. So we're going to do Halifax and Dartmouth on this tour. And of course, you know, if you want to fast forward, you can skip some of this, but I wanted to make it a nice tour of this area for anybody that's planning on visiting. Okay, I'm just going to pause here for a second, and we'll take a look down below again. So this is Sunnydale Crescent here. And this is called Sunnyside. So you can take the Waverley Road out from Dartmouth, or this road here, the Bedford Highway, to Sunnyside, and they have some nice little shops and stores, restaurants there. So this is pretty nicely rendered if you want to get an idea of what to expect if you're planning on visiting Nova Scotia and Halifax in particular. We'll fly over the Citadel, which is an old British fort. That's well worth visiting. Okay, let's fly up Bedford Basin towards the bridges. So on our right there is the homes of Bedford, the railway tracks running in along the water towards Halifax. So during World War II, a lot of Navy vessels took cover and protection in this basin here. Bridges are rendered actually. So Dartmouth on the left, that's a coal-fired hydro facility there, those three stacks on the left producing some smoke. Pretty sure that's for electricity. Okay, we're coming up to the bridge here. Beautiful bridge. Orthotropic suspension cable bridge. Wow, nicely done, nicely done, nicely rendered. There's some ships. There's Navy ships that are here, Canadian Navy, and sometimes the U.S. visit here as well for a stop. There's the railway cars on the right. Wow, this is really nice, very nicely done. So now the Angus L. McDonald Bridge, we're going to fly into that. And we are going right up Bedford Basin towards Halifax Harbour, which leads out to the Atlantic Ocean. So it's a great harbor, a lot of trade and shipping Happens here for Canadian goods coming to Canada. So let's see if we can get under this bridge here. Yeah, wow. Very nice. Okay. There's Eastern Passage. Straight ahead there, you can see that's just outside of Dartmouth. And then here's the buildings of Halifax. I'm just going to pause for a second, see if I, putting the sun up in the morning, see if we can light it up here. There we go. It's a little better. So the sun coming up in the east will light the buildings up a little better for us. Okay, we're going to fly over this little island here. So that's George's Island, National Historic Site. The British sort of had defenses on that island back in the 1800s to protect the harbor, so there's a good view of what it looks like. Wow, that's pretty spectacular. Nice to see. Margaret's Beach Lighthouse is straight ahead, and we're going to fly over this island. So you can see on the left there the water coming through by the island. That's Eastern Passage, and this is on our right, another entrance to Halifax Harbour. There's an oil refinery on your left over there in Eastern Passage. You can see a few buildings, homes, or whatever, structures on this island here. So let's take a look at where we are here. So that's McNabb's Island. So there's a provincial park there, McNabb's and Lawler's Island Provincial Park. Okay, and there's Eastern Passage. And this is Canadian Air Force Airport, Shearwater. So it's not for commercial flights as a rule. It's mainly used by the military. Okay, let's go back again. To the plane and continue flying. Just giving you an idea where things are. I'll give you this is here's some of the areas here. Spryfield, and this is Halifax here. That's the Dingle. This is quite a well-known area. That any homes in this area are very high-priced homes because of the view. All right, so let's continue flying. What I'm going to do is turn back now to Halifax and see if we can fly over, like, Dalhousie University, St. Mary's. That's the Margaret Beach Lighthouse. Thought it was Margaret. Couldn't read it very well from a distance. Okay, let's see if we can fly over Citadel Hill in Halifax, which is a fort that pretty much anybody coming on a bus tour, tourist, will be guaranteed to visit. See if we can bring up some of these markers here. This one flashed for a second and then it went out. So there's the container pier on our right that I talked about. where the ships come and unload containers. Okay, that's Prince of Wales Tower, National Historic Site. All right. So let's fly over towards downtown area of Halifax and see what markers we can bring up here. Okay, Angus Elmatonic Bridge, we just flew under that. That marker is for Halifax, and there's lots of shops and tourist areas that are lovely to visit, and so you can eat a lot of these places here right on the harbor with a beautiful view. So it's been restored a lot in the last, say, 40 years. Lots of improvements, and tour ships come in here. You can see some pretty nice places to live here. Condos right on the water. Okay, let's see if we can find the Citadel Hill. I hope it's rendered. Yes, here it is right here. So this is a famous British fort, part of the history of this area, and it's available for tourists to visit. Very interesting tour. And I'm not sure if they've marked St. Mary's University in Dalhousie, but they're in this area. And anybody that's familiar will recognize the buildings, I'm sure. I'll pause for a second and see what we can come up with. I'm not sure if it'll show up on our map here. Yeah, there's Dalhousie University straight ahead. So we'll fly over that, and St. Mary's is around here somewhere as well. It's in the same area. There's St. Mary's right there. So St. Mary's off to our right, the aircraft, and Dalhousie straight ahead. Also, there's a beautiful park here. That you can go walking through, and well worth the time. Point Pleasant Park, it's called, and it is really beautiful. They also have a beautiful public gardens in Halifax. Not sure if I can find that or not, but it's in this area. There's the Citadel. Public gardens. Probably in this area somewhere. But it'll be in this area somewhere, I believe. Okay, so let's fly over Dalhousie. And St. Mary's off to the right. And we'll go down to Point Pleasant Park and fly over. Okay, so Dalhousie University, famous university, very highly regarded and rated as a university. And then we're going to fly over towards St. Mary's and Point Pleasant Park. Okay, and there is a football stadium, St. Mary's University Football Stadium. This is Point Pleasant Park. So this is absolutely spectacular to visit and walk through if you get the time. There's a container pier again. Okay. And of course the railway tracks coming into the railway station, Canadian National Railway Station. So a final look at Halifax. I'm going to fly over here and let you know what that area is that we're going to. You can zoom in on it. See if we can pick up a name here. So that's Chocolate Lake. And this is the northwest arm here, this whole area. So this is for sailboats, etc. People with a lot of money that can afford it. There's the Dingle, as I told you, was pretty famous. And some of the names of the streets here for you. So we'll fly over this area and then back towards Dartmouth. Take a look at some of the things in Dartmouth. So the northwest arm, there's a view out to the Atlantic Ocean. So this is just a great little plane for doing this type of sightseeing tour. Let's see how well they've rendered some of the sailboats, etc. I mean, it depends on how well you turned up your graphics on stuff like that, or how well they're rendered. Okay, let's head over to Dartmouth. So we'll go over to Dartmouth and fly over Lake Chinook and Lake Micmac. So basically we'll take the Alexander McDonald Bridge here, Angus L. McDonald Bridge, and we'll fly across over that into Dartmouth. So those are the two main ways to get across the harbor. There is a ferry that goes on a regular basis from Halifax to Dartmouth. I'm not sure whether they'll show it, but I'm going to try and pick it up. See if I go low and slow enough, whether it'll show up. So it'll be somewhere in this area where it would come and go from. And really, it's not too expensive. You could just take it for a nice boat ride from Halifax to Dartmouth. You'll get to see some sights very cheaply on the harbor front. So that might be where the ferry terminal is, right there. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm going to turn around and see if we can pick up. Well, that might be the ferry right back there. So I'm not 100% sure where the crossing is, but I'm going to have a look. We can get our speed up a bit here. Yeah, the ferry terminal is around here somewhere. So let me just pause and see if it'll actually show it. So these are different wharfs, so that's easy to confuse them. But so I'm assuming, yeah, the ferry terminal, this could be the route for the ferry terminal right here. Yeah, Halifax Dartmouth Ferry. So there's the terminal right there. And we're pretty close to where it'll cross, and then it comes into Dartmouth right here. So let's see if we can pick up a ferry. Let's see if these little boats are probably the ferry going to Dartmouth and going to Halifax. So let's have a look. Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to show up in Microsoft Flight Sim. That was, they certainly showed up in little nav map. So we're going to head over to Dartmouth. And then we're going to do it by night and see what it looks like by night with all the lights lit up. So I think that's probably the Dartmouth Ferry Terminal right there below us. And there's probably two ferry boats sitting in there in dock. Okay, so we're in Dartmouth now. And we're going to be flying over this large lake coming up here, which is used for canoeing. Now let's just stop for a second. And these are some famous sites in Dartmouth here. So this is Sullivan's Pond. And it's quite beautiful around there. A lot of people like to sit there during the day and relax, have a coffee. And then there's Lake Binook. We're coming up to Lake Binook, and then we move into Lake Micmac. Now there's a beautiful walking trail all along here that you can do, and which is fantastic for the people that live in this area. So Lake Binook, and then we're going to do Lake Micmac, and then there's the Red Bridge Pond on the right over here. Okay, this is Albro Lake, and this is Frenchman Lake. So let's continue flying. Okay, Sullivan's Pond we just flew over. So this is Lake Binook. Two canoeing clubs on the left and right there that we just passed. And then we're heading up towards Waverley. And this will be Lake Micmac. The Micmac Ball right there on your left, and Pinhorn Lake there on your right, I think, up on the hill. So let's swoop around here. So we're heading out towards Waverley and Fall River now, in that direction. So we're going to fly back towards Dartmouth again. And we're going to go into night view. Okay, let's turn on the night lights. Just pause, go up here to the time of day and make it an evening. So the sun's going down. There we go. So we're going to see what it looks like at night now. Okay, we're going to turn now and head across the harbor to Halifax. Okay, I'm going to pause here and make it a little bit darker. We'll get that sun right down now. So the sun has gone down in the west. Going a little too fast here for this aircraft. I wanted to try and get a little bit lower here. Didn't see any cruise ships in that I noticed, but they do come here this time of year. Turning now and flying up towards the Newcastle McDonald Bridge and the A. Marie McKay Bridge. So if you're familiar with this area, leave your comments down below how well you think Microsoft Flight Sim rendered Halifax in its latest edition, 2024 Microsoft Flight Sim. There's people heading across the bridge to Dartmouth. Well, they got those coal-burning hydro towers there well lit up at night so we don't smash into them. And it looks like the A. Marie McKay Bridge is well lit up as well. Referred to as a new bridge, but it was built in 1970. And the one behind us is the old bridge. That was like 1950s. It was finished, I believe, and came into use. So this is Bedford Basin now we're coming up to. So that's a Navy dockyard, I believe, there we just went by. So let's see if we can fly under the bridge at night here without hitting the water or the bridge. There we go. Okay, we're going to try and land. Just going to pause here for a second and give us a daytime scene again, and we'll land in Bedford Basin and end our tour. See how this plane lands on the water. Get the landing gear up. So, should be okay. Once we see ripples on the water, we'll know we're getting real close. So I've got to really slow down here. if you remember, there is a rudder in here that we can put up or down to steer. So now it allows us to turn a little bit better. So thank you very much for joining me on this flight, Flight Simmers. If you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell, notification bell as well. It'd be much appreciated. So I'll catch you on the next flight. Take care.